Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics and Living, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about how 70 million Christians have been martyred in Christian history. Now before we begin, if you need a prayer, let's do one. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, Amen. Gloria Patri, Filii et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper, et saecula saeculorum. Amen. So I'll put a banner for the Catholic history playlist that we have here, because I do like to do episodes on history because my degrees are in history and I loved history as a child. History and geography, I was such a nerd. I just read encyclopedias. I could have told you at age 8 the capital of every country in the world and its location. And I could tell you, even today, if you gave me a year, I could tell you the British monarch, the Austrian monarch, the French monarch, and the American president. I'm such a nerd. But so I wanted to talk about Christian martyrdom. There was a report that came out that was written by a gentleman by the name of David Barnett. And he estimates, or David Barrett I should say, he estimates that 70 million Christians have been killed in the 2,000 years since Christian history, and how the large majority of them, about 2/3 of them, have been in the last 300 years. So I'm going to just quote from him. 1 million were killed in the Nazi final solution, Nazi Germany. 15 million in the Russian Revolution, in particular the early parts from 1917 to 1950. 200,000 Christians were killed in the Boxer Rebellion in 1898 in China. 700,000 were killed in communist China in 1950 to 1980. If you look at the Cristero War, which we have a video here, the amount of Catholic Mexicans that were killed is around 100,000. If you look, 300,000 Christians were killed under Idi Amin in Uganda. And these are just an example of some of them. So we know that Tertullian said that the blood of Christian martyrs feeds the church, is the seed of the church. I want to make sure I get the correct right. The blood of the martyrs is the seed for the church. And we know that in the early church, of course, there were a lot of persecutions. The first one began with Nero, that took Paul and Peter's life, all the way to Diocletian, who was right before Constantine, when Constantine legalized it. So we know that, like a lot of times when you're trying to stamp out a rebellion, you're actually doing a job of actually spreading it better, because people will see, it's like, oh my God, why are these people doing this? Because you have to understand, we have an episode in here how on like feminism, how people will say, oh, Christianity has been so bad for women. It's like, you don't know what Christianity has done for women. Look at ancient Rome, ancient Greece. But these people are like, wow, they're dying for this faith, for this Jesus Christ. Because the typical pagan, they saw their gods as just being mercurial and just coming down and raping women, or you had this very strange relationship where you give them, food offerings and so forth, like Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians. But there was no personal necessary relationship with them. There was no morality, because the Greek and Roman guys didn't expect to be moral. They just expected your loyalty. So they would see these martyrs being devoured by lions or being publicly executed, like someone like Ignatius of Antioch, for example. And it led to the growth of the church. And so what happened in the last 300 years? Well, really, it's the rise of Freemasonry, esoteric Freemasonry, that came out about 300 years ago. And no Catholic can be a Freemason. And the old code of canon law, you're automatically excommunicated. We have a video here on there's 2 ways to be excommunicated. And you saw the revolutions that started really with the with the French Revolution, and then the revolutions of 1830, 1848, 1870, just all the ones spreading through Europe, and then the Russian Revolution and so forth. And understand, and we talked about this in the Black Book of Communism. This was a book released by Harvard, which is a leftist bastion. And it estimated that about the same number of Christians have been killed in atheist countries. I should correct that. 100 million people have died under atheist governments, and that's mostly going to be Soviet Union, Communist China, Pol Pot over in Cambodia, Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam, and so forth. And so anytime you hear like atheists, they're like, oh, we don't want to attack Christianity. No, they want you to be tolerant of their belief until they get enough power, and then they will persecute us, because that's what history tells us. That's what history tells us. So you look at the aforementioned statistics, of secular / atheist governments. They will target Christians. And if you think, because you live in the cushy confines like here in Texas where I live, that there's no more Christian martyrs. And we're not even talking about Catholic. A lot of these were Lutherans, like at Nazi Germany. Look at Dietrich Bonhoeffer, his classic line. When they came for the trade unionists, I didn't care because I wasn't a trade unionist. So, I mean, it's Christians of all ilk are martyred. And who's really martyring the Christians? Islam and the atheists. But if you think that there's no Christian martyrs today, you're sadly mistaken. Look at the Christian population in China. Look at the puppet Catholic regime that you have in China, where there's the authentic Catholic Church that is underground in China. Then you have the one that's supported by the communist government that is a puppet one, similar to what they did in the French Revolution. So I'll put links here for the episode I have on the French Revolution, Russian Revolution, the Christiada, and so forth. So no, guys, in Africa too, Islam is persecuted. Think of the Boko Haram, you've heard of them. All through the Sahel and kind of the sub-Saharan Africa region, in Nigeria and Ghana and that whole area, Chad, a lot of Christians being killed. Middle East, still a lot of Christians being killed. A lot of them have left the old ancient areas of Christianity, like the Chaldeans and all that area, the Holy Land. A lot of them have left because they're being persecuted. So it's still happening. Catholics and Protestants alike, it is still happening, and it will continue to happen. Christ says it's going to continue to happen. We will be persecuted for believing in him, and that's fine. I mean, you will wear the white robe of martyrdom if you die as a martyr, and you will go to heaven immediately. And I'm not saying you should court martyrdom, but we need to be expected to give up our life for the faith. And if we apostatize to save our life, A, they're probably going to kill you eventually, and either way. But B, remember what Christ says. Those who try to save their life will lose, and those who will lose their life for the faith will, of course, be in eternity in heaven forever. So just understand, don't live in a Pollyanna world where it's like, this is the way I want the world to be. No. As a whole, we've enjoyed a great time in Christendom, no doubt. The age of Pisces, the last 2,000 years. But the age of persecution is coming. It might not be when you and I are alive. It might be our children, grandchildren. It is coming. You see the tea leaves. You can read them. You see history repeating itself. And understand, even if you don't feel it in America or wherever you're watching this, there's people in the world right now that are being persecuted all the time, and pray for them. That's part of my night prayer. I pray for the persecuted, pray for them. And just pray for the Christians in the world, and pray for conversion, and pray that this world can be salvaged. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.